Hey crafty friends, Kristina here with you from Close to My Heart. Today we are going to be making some irresistible cards. And so not only does that mean, because these are awesomely delightful cards, but also the papers that we're going to be using are called irresistible cardstock. And so if you got the kit, you have a little sampler pack of all of these. There's 6 different designs in it, and you get 2 of each. And hopefully, I'm not sure if this is picking up well. It looks like it's a little bit. You can see how it's kind of a glossy effect of different patterns on here. It's kind of like it's been embossed for you. And the nice thing is that it resists any ink or paint or anything that you want to use on it to get that fun effect of having a pattern on it. And so today I'm hoping to show you some fun techniques with it and just kind of show you the beauty of it by making these 2 cards. So let's go ahead and get started. So if you got a kit, you have everything pre-cut for you, and with the exception of these little strips here, we're going to be going ahead and cutting those here. But we're gonna go ahead and start with this strip card here first. That way you get to see a lot of the patterns in action. And so go ahead and grab your papers. And so we're gonna have 5 strips here that we're working with. And so, as I said, there's 6 different patterns. So the only pattern I didn't use in mine was this one that kind of reminds me of like the Van sneakers. It's got this checkerboard kind of pattern to it. So you could use each of the patterns here so that you get to see all of them, or you could double up and have, use, if you really like this diagonal like plaid one, you could use a couple of these ones. But I'm gonna go ahead and do one of each. So I'm gonna grab my paper trimmer. And so for this design, just to do this real quick, I kept it really simple. So the 2 outer strips are 3/4 inch wide, and then the 3 inner ones are 1/2 inch. So the easiest way to conserve all of your paper, because if you're like me, you want to keep all of your pretty paper, is to do the smallest cut first. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our paper in our trimmer, and I'm going to go ahead and cut the first one at 3/4. And so whenever I'm doing smaller cuts, I like to do it on the right hand side of my paper trimmer because there's more stability, because you can hold on to it on the left hand side. Whereas if you are trying to do it this way and you're doing those small cuts, it's really hard. You have stability here on the right hand side, but it's hard to get that straight cut. So if you've never tried that before, it's a great handy tip to do. So I'm going to do 3/4 inch here. So I'm going to go ahead and go up here. Oh, actually I just realized that I did that wrong. So hopefully you weren't doing exactly with me, because this won't be long enough, because these samplers I gave you are 4x6. So this is only gonna be 4 inches long, so it won't be long enough. So I actually needed to have the paper turned this way. So I'm gonna go ahead and do another 3/4 inch, and then I'm gonna go ahead and rotate it and do it at 4 1/4. Okay, so this is my first strip here, just like that. Okay, so I'm gonna put that one aside, and then I'm gonna grab my next pattern, do my floral, and I'm gonna do this one at 1/2 inch, and then rotate it and do 4 1/4. So my second strip. So they can be in any design, any, you don't have to do them the same way I'm doing, I guess I'm saying. So you can cut your patterns different. I'm gonna keep going here with a 1/2 inch one, and I'm gonna do the 4 1/4. So I'm basically cutting them in the order that they're gonna go on my card, so that way I know I have the measurements correct. So I just did the stripe one again at 1/2 inch. And then now I'm gonna do the stars, also at 1/2 inch. Okay. Rotate it another 4 1/4. Since it's a standard size card that we're working with, our next card we're gonna do a 5x7, just to change up the sizing and work with something a little different. So our final one, I'm gonna go back to that 3/4 inch width. So moving it over 3/4, and then rotate it and have it at 4 1/4. Okay, so now we're done with all of our cutting. Pretty easy, right? Okay, so I'm gonna put my paper trimmer aside. I'm also gonna go ahead, if you have, like, this is our all-purpose mat here, and I like to keep it underneath our verse mat, because when you're gonna work with something kind of messy like this with the inks, it's great because it wipes off really easy, wipes real clean. So this is gonna help us work easier. So I've got my strips here, and I did want to show you before we go ahead and get started, I have another sample of the same design card, just done just a little bit different, just to kind of give you some inspiration. So this one here, instead of having 5 different colors, I kind of repeated colors. So I have 2 of the honey butter and 2 of the sapphire. with just one of the sage here. And I did darker colors. Like I tried to keep this one kind of pastel and soft, whereas this one's more intense. And the reason I did that is I wanted to kind of show you something that's a little different with this paper. So with the lighter colors, that portion that will resist the ink is pretty white. It stays pretty white and has that pop to it. Whereas when you get to the darker, more saturated colors, you will notice that some of that color will seep into that paper. So see how it's not as white, it's kind of more of a soft blue because this sapphire color is such a deep, intense blue color. So I just wanted you to kind of be aware of that for when we're going to go ahead and color our strips here and when you're coloring your strips at home. And before we get too far, I should actually mention I only have 3 kits left available to purchase because the stencils that we're going to use on our second card, those are out of stock. Those are sold out. And so if you did want to get a kit and you weren't able to yet, you should hurry. I only have the 3 left because I can't put together another kit since we don't have those. So continuing on. So I did want to show you before we go ahead and color them that there are a couple different ways that you can color them. So these 2 here that I've done are just with our regular water-based dye ink here. Just regular ink, just sponge that on and you get this beautiful effect. Another way you can do it, let me grab another sample, is here I have this card and hopefully this shows up. I have these butterflies and I colored them with our shimmer brushes. And actually maybe what I'll do is let me get a scratch piece of this paper so that you can see. So I did our shimmer brushes. So this is our shimmer brush. This is our melon color, which is our color of the year. So if you've never worked with our shimmer brushes before, they're pretty awesome. They add a nice sparkly touch to your project and it's kind of like a paint. So if you shake it up, you'll hear there's like a ball, there's some balls in there that help shake up that sparkle stuff. So you do want to kind of shake it before you work with it. And then you're going to go ahead and just pull it apart. There are push button here on the side. It says push in 2 spots and that's where you're going to push to get more fluid to come out of the tip. But you don't need to do that every time. And in fact, you don't want to do that every time because you'll get too much liquid. And so generally when I'm working on a project and I'm using our shimmer brushes, I always test it on a scratch paper. But since this isn't going to really be on anything, I'm just going to go ahead and do it so you guys can see it. So it does go ahead and resist just like the ink does. And but it adds that sparkle. And so if you don't have enough, that's when you would go ahead and push and some more fluid's going to come out. But I'm hoping maybe that shows up a little bit more because it's fresh than the butterflies. But it's just so pretty. And so it's another way to use this Irresistibles cardstock. So fun thing to do. So there's that one. And then let me get a couple. So you've got the shimmer brush. Then this card here, we also have stickers in this Irresistible, and I did that with their letter stickers, and I did this love with that, and I used markers. So you can use markers on this as well. These are alcohol markers, and I kind of did an ombre effect, and so that's another way. So if you don't have any other options, you know, ink pads or anything like that, you can use that for these strips on our card today. Another option for this background floral paper, this is also one of the papers that you get in here, the floral. I used water color paints. So I've got my well-used watercolor paints here. You can use that on this paper. The only thing I'm going to mention is that this is not watercolor paper, so it might pill up a little bit on you, which is totally natural because you're adding a lot of water, a lot of wetness to it, but it also gives you that nice pretty effect where it pops out that pattern. So, so there's a couple different ideas for you on how you can achieve that resist look. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to use actually different colors here to have a third color scheme, but I'll try to keep these 2 here in the field of what you can see, so that way you guys can hopefully be inspired here. So I'm going to use 3 colors. I'm going to do the same effect here like I did with this second card, where I'm repeating 2 of the colors and then just having 1 here in the third. So I'm going to use 2 greens and our melon, kind of going for that like St. Patrick's Day vibe here a little bit. And so what I'm going to do is to be cost effective and keep the price down for you guys on the kit, I included a round sponge for this in case you don't have any other way of doing your ink, transferring your ink. So what I do when I get my round sponge is I'm giving you guys all these tips before we even get started. Hopefully that's okay. So what you do, or what I do, I should say, is I like to get the most out of it. Even though these are super inexpensive, I cut it in half first, and then you can cut it into quarters, or sometimes I even cut it into thirds. Like, so you can see here that this is 2/3 of the other side. So that way you guys have more than enough to do many colors on these 2 projects that we're doing today. So hopefully that helps you guys. But you could also, if you have blending brushes, we have blending brushes, you could do that. So I will do blending brush on my second one just so you can see the difference, but I will use our sponge for the first card. The other option you could use as a third option, so you've got the blending brush, the sponges I provided, or you could do sponge daubers. So, all right, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut this in quarters. So I've got 4 sponge, well, I'm gonna use those 3 because that one I've already used. Okay, so now I've got 3, sorry, I keep saying the wrong number, 3 sponges here, so for my 3 colors, with my scissors. Okay, so if you want to make this easiest and so you're not going to have it moving around a lot, because as you can probably imagine when you're working with this, not necessarily this one because it's kind of a little bit bigger, but maybe the smaller ones, it will move around on you. So what I do actually is I take our tape runner, because it's kind of like a dotted tape runner, and so it's super sticky once it's down, but it also is removable. So I put a little bit on there and then I stick it to our all-purpose mat, and that kind of holds it in place, but I'm still able to pick it back up and use it on that project when I'm done. Okay, so we're gonna do this first one. I'm gonna move these other ones to the side. I'm gonna start with my green apple ink. So I'm just gonna go ahead and rub my ink pad to kind of pull up that ink into the sponge and then just rub over it. And look how beautiful that is. It's just, I don't know, if it's just like being a kid, right? Like you just get so excited because it's like this magic of seeing that pattern pop up, and it's so vibrant and you're just like, wow. And it's so, there's just not a lot of work that you have to do. Whoops, I've already slid it there. Okay, so, and so you can do as little or as much ink as you want. Like if you want it to be more vibrant, keep adding ink to get it darker. And so I like it to be intense. So I sit there and I keep adding more ink to it. But as you add more ink, obviously, then it's going to stay a little bit wetter, which it's not going to be super wet because we're just transferring dye ink onto it. But so I'm happy with that. So here is another tip I will give you. In my craft space, I always keep paper towels and baby wipes. If you don't, you should try it because you're going to use it a lot. So I'm going to grab a paper towel, and I actually kind of blot and kind of daub here, wipe off, just so that I know I'm getting all that excess ink off, and it kind of makes it a little bit more vibrant. That white really pops a little bit more. So you can see I'm pulling off a little bit of that green, and so it just gives it, I like it. I think it just has more pop to it, just more wow factor. So I've done that. And also then I can kind of wipe up my area around there so I can go on to my next color. But because I'm going to repeat this color, I'm going to go ahead and grab that strip. So I'm going to make sure I've got, let's see, so that was going to be my third one there. So I'm going to go ahead and do a second one in that same color, but you can change up your colors. And again, I'm just using water-based dye ink. You could use the shimmer brushes that I showed you. You could use paints, markers. You've got many options for this, which makes it so fun. Because no matter what supplies you have in your craft stash, you should have something that can work with this. So I'm just going on here. Again, I like it to be really intense, so I'm adding a lot of color. I'm gonna flip it around here. Since I'm right-handed, I can get better angle here on the right side. Okay, so that's good. Again, I'm gonna bring in my paper towel, kind of blot it off. Get that nice white showing through. Okay, so now I've got those two done. All right, so now I'm gonna bring in my next color. I'm gonna do clover and bring in this one here. Add a little bit of tape here. Oh good, Lori, I like to see that you also agree with the baby wipes and the paper towels. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab a new sponge for my new color here. So I don't think I mentioned it, sorry. This is our clover ink, so it's a little bit darker. It's perfect for St. Patrick's Day. And then you see those flowers popping up. It's a little bit more intense of a color, so it's probably going to saturate a little bit into the resist paper, like that sapphire did that I showed you in the start. But we'll still wipe it away and still hopefully get a little bit of that pop with it. Okay, so I'm gonna actually rotate it. I like doing that just because I feel like I have better control over it since I'm right-handed, but you could just leave it like it is and not be fussing around with it. But especially when I'm here on camera, it just makes it easier for me. There you go, nice and intense. Pretty, pretty color. Okay, so then I'm gonna bring my paper towel back in, kind of wipe it off, but as you can see, just kind of like I said, it does leave a little bit of that green in there. I mean, it's still pretty white, but it does have a little bit more of that green in there than the other one. Okay, so now that's gonna be my second one there. And now I'm gonna get my other 3/4 inch one that's gonna go on the bottom. I'm gonna add a little bit of adhesive to the back just so it'll stick a little bit better. Okay, so this is so fun. It's like a technique, but not a technique in the sense that, you know, you're not having to do anything really hard or anything. Like, this paper is already provided for you. It's all that hard work is done. It's, like I said in the beginning, it's kind of like they embossed it for you and you just get to go ahead and start playing with it. So, all right, I'm gonna rotate that, stick it down again. So I would love, for those of you who got kits, if you feel comfortable, obviously, to post your projects when you're done, because I'd love to see the colors that you guys do and the coloring mediums that you guys use for these, because like I said, you have those options, and so that's what makes it really fun. Okay, so now we're done with that color. So again, I'm gonna blot off so these polka dots really pop. And this is just an extra step. You do not have to do this. You could just let it dry as is. I'm just gonna kind of wipe up the area here. Okay, so now I'm gonna move on to my final color. And that's gonna be my star pattern. Okay, put that down. And that is gonna be with our melon ink. Show you this was the same one of the shimmer brush that I showed you at the start. This is our color of the year. It's only available this year. Each year they bring a new color called the color of the year, obviously. And so this is this year's one. Okay, so we're getting those stars to kind of pop through. This is a little bit softer of a color. I'm just rubbing that in. I feel like I should have cleaned my work area a little bit better because I can tell it's kind of muddying it up. I'm kind of getting some of that green that must have had a little bit of residue left there. So that's gonna be all right. I'll just keep going over it a little bit more and get that color to be a little softer melon, true melon color instead of the muddied. Yes, Cindy, you can get this paper without the kit. It comes, you get, I think, 12 sheets, 12 by 12, because you get 2 of each design. So after I'm done with this video, I can put a link up to where you can get it. And at the beginning, I also said that it comes in stickers too, letter stickers. So if you like it for the idea of using it for titles, or like in my love card that I did, you could use it for that too. It has that same thing. The stickers only come in 2 patterns though. They come in the, what was it, stripes, I believe, and polka dots. I'll have to look at that just to make sure I give you guys the right answer on that. But okay, so real quick before I continue on, just because I did get that residue, I'm gonna grab a baby wipe and just wipe up my area here and then dry it just to make sure I don't muddy up anything else. Okay, so you guys can see the benefit here of having the baby wipes and the paper towels, right? Okay, so that should be dry enough. So now I'm gonna go ahead and grab my kit. So you have your stuff here in your envelope. You can just go ahead and put the envelopes aside. So there's only a few pieces in here because, again, I wanted the focal point to really be these beautiful strips that we're working with from the Irresistibles cardstock. So, all right. Put them in the order, like that. Okay. So that way we know the order we're gonna lay them down on. Okay, so what we're gonna do is you've got your card base, so we're gonna start with the bottom one. Kimberly, sorry, I'm trying to do this and see your guys' comments. Kimberly, how much does this kit cost and where can I see it? I believe the kit is $29.95. It is on my website. If you go to sunnydaymemories.com, under my classes and kits, you'll see it under there under Irresistible Cards. And I will put a link to it when I'm done as well for you. Okay, sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice here a little bit, getting a frog in the throat. So you're gonna go ahead and glue this 3/4 inch, one of the big thicker ones, down starting at the bottom. And I usually do it about 1 inch from the base. And generally I have my nice Versamat with the grid lines on it to do that, so I can be more, I can use that as kind of a guide, but I'm just gonna wing it. because I want to be able to use my all-purpose mat again here on our second card. So we're going to go about 1 inch and put that down. And then we're going to have our stripe one. Again, sorry, you could have a different pattern. Mine's going to be a stripe. And you're going to leave a little border in between the two patterns here so that that white pops through. What that does is that kind of helps the pattern that you have in these papers really pop. And we want that to happen. So leaving that space gives that ability. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that space. Glue that down. Oh, thank you, Chris. I'm glad that you like the color combination. I just was kind of trying to do something different from the 2 other samples I had for you guys. And I was thinking, you know, the next holiday coming up after Valentine's Day is St. Patrick's Day. And so I thought maybe this would be fun. Okay, so then we're going to take our 3rd 1/2 inch strip that we did. Again, leaving that little space like that. And then our final one that is the wider 3/4 inch. See, this comes together so quick and easy, but I think it just is so stunning because these papers are amazing. So you've got this beautiful look here with the different patterns showing through, the different colors, very vibrant. So then in your kit, you also have these 3 pieces. So I will tell you, you do not need the black circle. I just gave that to you because when I die cut it, these 2 pieces come together. So you have an extra piece. You can use it for something else or you can toss it. Totally up to you. This is from it's like a small circle shaker window set. And so what it's intended to do, let me see, I have a sample to show you guys. So it does little shakers, like I did this little Valentine's lollipop. So that's kind of the idea, is that this is a nice frame to hold that shaker element. But we're not creating a shaker today. We're just doing it to draw attention and have that focal point with the sentiment here. And the sentiment is, let me grab the stamp set real quick so that I can show it to you. It is a bunch of sentiments. It's pretty awesome if you're a card maker because it has almost any sentiment that you would want to use. This is from it's the Little Things card making. So I used the one here, You're in My Thoughts Today. In our second card, we're going to be using this just because. So, okay. So another thing I did want to mention, and I realized that I hadn't in the beginning, but I wanted to really tie in the black here on this one. So I actually, not sponged, but I swiped the edge of each piece in black ink. And you can see how that really pops and really ties in nicely with that. For my sample card, I also kind of wanted to do that. I wanted to tie in that black a little bit. So I just took a black journaling pen and I just drew a line along the top and the bottom here, just so that it kind of pulls it together because we're using those black gems here, the dots, and then this black frame. And so by doing that, you're kind of tying it all together. So we could do that with this one as well. You could go ahead and just simply go in and go slowly right along the top here. And then I'm going to rotate it here and go along the base. But if you haven't glued down your strips and you'd like to try swiping them with the black ink, you could do that as well. You could even go in and do the lines next to each one so you really have more black in there. It's totally up to you. So just lots of great different ways that you can kind of tie things together and add small little details, because truly it is those small little details that really makes things work nicely. And a lot of times we don't realize it. And so I just wanted to point that out to you. Okay, so now we're going to glue these 2 pieces together. So the best way to do that, because if you look at it, the circle is not the same size as the frame. So you don't want to, if you're using like a liquid glue, which I'm going to do here, you don't want to have it smooch, like kind of ooze out all over. So what I recommend is that you stay on the inside portion. You have that stitching, that nice stitching that kind of gives you a guide. Just put your adhesive around that inner portion. And so I'm going to use a liquid glue here, and I'm going to use it just very lightly so that I don't have excess going everywhere. Okay, and then I'm going to go and just lay that down, centering it on there, using that stitched line as my guide. And then if you're worried about it sticking, here's another tip for you. You can take, if you've got blocks, like from stamping, a lot of times will just put a block on top of it just so that I know that it's going to hold it together and it's going to make good contact, just to give it a couple, seconds, couple minutes, whatever time you have, so that it can really get a good hold. Oh, Sabrina, thank you. I'm glad that you like this blue and yellow card. I think those colors really popped nice. But then I also really like this one with we're doing today with the green and the melon. Okay, so that's another tip there for you that may come in handy. All right, so then we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna take some 3D foam and put that behind it so it's kind of raised so that your eye is really drawn to that sentiment. So the recipient sees that. Okay. And then take off these backings. Could you give us the ink links? Give us the links for the products. Sure, after my presentation, absolutely, Kathy, I will do that. Okay, so here what I'm doing is I'm just centering it between the two wide strips that we created. You could raise it higher if you wanted, you could have it lower. I am just gonna go ahead and center it. And then the final touch is you have a sheet of gems, or dots rather, in your packet, in your kit. I'm just taking one of the large black and one of the medium black and just putting them up at the corner, the left-hand corner, just again to kind of tie in that black in the frame, okay? So that's it. That's it for that first card. Pretty awesome, but super simple to do. So that is the first one. Let's go ahead and move on to the second one. So the second one is this one that we're going to use our, stencils. My brain just like kind of paused there. I couldn't like remember the word I wanted. So again, you've got your envelope of your items that you have. So you're going to go ahead and pull it out. You can put the envelope to the side. And then you've got all your stuff here. Okay, so you do have a little baggie with all these little bits because these are some small little pieces and I didn't want you to lose any of them. So they're in a small little piece. Is the turquoise color on the multicolor? Yes, this is Lagoon. I'm going to be using Lagoon here for this card. Good eye, Kimberly. Okay, so then you have a piece of black cardstock and then I have embossed your sentiment for you. So the couple things, this little banner piece is from, let's see, let me grab it. It is from a new collection called Storybook Card Making. So it has this fun castle, but I love this banner piece because it's great for just adding a little title, but it also has this background image and then also the little cloud image. And this is the stamp set that coordinates with it. So, okay. So, super easy. We're just gonna go ahead and glue this black piece on here, right on the center of your 5x7 card. Okay. So that leaves a nice white border all the way around your card, just like that. And then we're gonna go ahead and set this to the side because then this piece, this white piece that we're gonna go ahead and stencil is actually one of the full sheets of the sampler. This is why I did the sampler like this. So you can choose any of the patterns that you want. So I'm trying to think, do I just want to do the same? Maybe I'll just do the same. I'll just do that same stripe again. So that way it looks the same here. Okay, so Lagoon ink, like I had said. And so you also in the kit got, oh, Lori, thank you. I'm glad that you like the black and the Lagoon. It does really pop really nicely. Lagoon is a really, really pretty color. So the stencil pack that you got in your kit, which is what I was saying at the beginning, why I only have 3 kits left, because these stencils have sold out. Understandably so, because they are so awesome. Because it's kind of like a 2-for-1. Like you get 3 of these ones with the shapes here, where the shape is out, and then you get the 3 inner pieces of the shape. So we are using this one here to where you have the shape is out, so that way you can stencil in there. If you didn't want to do that and you want to do the opposite, you could take that same piece, or actually let's just use the oval. You could use the oval and you could have that down and you'd have the ink all around this, and then that means the inner part here would be just that white piece with the pattern. So you can do it both ways, and just in case that's not super clear, I have this card here to show you what I kind of mean. So what I did, so tricky to see these here with the clear, is I took my one with the open oval here, like this. I put it down, and then I colored the Lagoon ink here in the center to create that Lagoon oval, right? And then I wanted to color the outside a different color, so then I put down my oval in the center, and then I colored with my sapphire all around that. And that way I was able to get 2 colors using these 2 different images, which is a super fun way to utilize the stencil pack. So hopefully that kind of makes it more clear about how, like, kind of what I meant, like 2-for-1 with this. So, all right, let me get the same stencil that I used previously. Oh, I have it right here. I'm gonna put these other ones back so I don't lose them. definitely always keep your stencils organized somehow so you don't lose them, because being clear makes it super easy to misplace. Okay, so, and just like I did previously, I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive on the back here to kind of help hold it in place. And then I'm going to put my stencil down. And you could use, let me grab it real quick. Sorry, I didn't have it handy. Let me see where I put it. Oh, here it is. Our masking tape. This is pretty awesome. I use it for many, many things. So you could use something like this to hold your stencil down in place. And in another minute, I will show you how to use it in another way. So I'm going to use Lagoon ink. And like I said, I'm going to use the blending brush this time. So you're just going to go ahead and pick up your ink and just rub it on there using that stencil. And you will want to make sure that you clean your stencil afterwards right away, just because you don't want that ink to stay on there. With some of the, again, just like I was saying earlier, with the more intense colors like that blue, it may kind of tint your stencil. It's not going to harm the functionality of the stencil, but you know, if you don't want to have a really colorful stencil pack, which actually it might be helpful because then you won't lose them, you'll be able to see them. You'll want to clean it right away just so that you can get as much of that color off as possible. So another thing you could think about when you're doing stencils is you could go like around the edges here in a darker, intense way. That's kind of what I did with my sample. And then the center is a little bit lighter, so it kind of creates more of a focal point in the center, kind of draws your eye in. So that's something you could do if you wanted to. Okay, so I think I have that to the intensity that I want. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove this. And first I'm going to go ahead and blot off that extra ink like we did previously, just so that it can really pop, that white can come through. As you can see, it does make a little bit of a difference, right? It's an extra step, but it's not a long step. So just kind of burnish all of that off, get a nice good image. Okay, and then I'm going to get a baby wipe real quick so I can wipe off my stencil. Oops. So that way it's good to go for my next time. And just dry up this extra space here. Okay, so now this can go ahead and be glued on to your card base. It's just simply going to go right on the center there. Nothing tricky about that. Okay. So leaving a little border of black. I purposely did it with black because I wanted you guys, since you guys are going to be doing the inking, I wanted you to be able to have it go with anything. And so there was a method to my madness with that, if you will. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead. This is going to be the hard part. Laura, when you blot, is there a chance of spreading the ink outside the ink? I have not had that happen. If you're worried about it, you could do kind of more of a pouncing versus rubbing and buffing. But like I said, I have not had that issue. Because really it's not a lot of ink, it's just a little bit that's just kind of sitting on that raised edge, which would dry anyway. It's just that this way you're getting it to be more white and true and pop better. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so like I said, this is going to be the trickiest part of this card. And so I apologize if you don't like working with little details, because these are little. So this flower thing is actually an SVG, an exclusive Close to My Heart SVG. I have not actually done it this small before, but before the card, I didn't want it to be so overwhelming. So I had to make it pretty small. So it will be a little persnickety to work with, but hopefully it's all right. So the one thing you'll want to kind of take note of, and let me find a good example of it, is our cardstock is two-toned. So there is a true color, which is the darker, and then a lighter one. So when you're working with it, you'll want to kind of keep that in mind to kind of determine how you want to use the pieces. Because how I designed it was I used the light side always as the base, and then the outline I did the darker. And so when you're kind of looking at your pieces, kind of check them against each other for color tone to see, am I using the light or am I using the dark? And so kind of piece them together here, kind of getting them where, so you can play with them and know which side is up for you. And so my greens here, again, I want them to be light. Okay, so I've got everything kind of how I want it. Penny, yes, I do too. I love the two-tone cardstock. It is amazing because it gives you so many more possibilities. Okay, so I was telling you guys that this masking tape, I love it because I use it for many things. Like we use it to tack down the stencil. I use it when I'm running dies through my die cutting machine. Another thing you can do is, so for your guys' flowers, I wanted even though our cardstock is two-toned, I wanted the intensity to be more intense with the color difference. So what I did is I took the overlay for most of the pieces and I actually sponged them. And so to do that, to make it easy, because these are really tiny, right? They're like so delicate. I stuck them, this is the sticky part up, I stuck them down to the masking tape, took a sponge dauber and then colored them with that same color ink. So this is melon cardstock with melon ink on it, but see how more vibrant it is, how you get such a more of an intensity with it. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna glue these pieces together. So there's a couple different ways you can do that. So if you've got like a tape runner, you could do a tape runner. It is pretty delicate, so you'll wanna be careful. If you've got like a fine tip liquid glue, you could do that. I have, and I forgot, I meant to look up, I got this off Amazon years ago. It's like an artist tacky glue or something. I'll have to look it up again. It's got little dots of glue and it comes between two sheets here. And when I do little things like this, this is what I use. And so you kind of just stick it down. And yes, Penny, I did do a lot of little detail work for you guys, but it's worth it because then your guys' cards are going to look awesome. So then you just go ahead and stick that down. Oops, but I keep popping it back up. So now you've got that beautiful flower. And so I'm just going to do that with each of my overlays, the outlines. I'm just going to kind of get glue on them. And remember, I did say that this was going to be the hardest part, right, you guys? It's so little and so finicky. But hopefully you find it worth it. I think it is because these are just so pretty, so stunning. Okay. So just keep getting your adhesive on there. Oops, I'm getting it on my fingertip. All right, so I am curious as I'm doing this. I'm not able to make the next live event, but I will be doing the one after that, which I believe is in May. So I always love to hear what you guys are interested in. And so if you guys have been watching me, you know, these last couple of years and you kind of know the things I've done, if there's something that you want me to like repeat or something new you want to learn, I would love for you to comment and let me know, because like I said, I really want this to be something that's useful for you guys, something that you guys love and are interested in learning about. So if you leave me a comment, I will definitely check that out and see what I can do for you. Okay, so one more, and then we've got this done. All these little itty bitties. Okay. Oops. And then we're just gonna make a cluster, this floral cluster here. All right. So I am going to start with my leaves here. Yes, Helen, these papers are amazing for different backgrounds. You can do so many different things. Okay, so I'm going to put my two leaves down, and actually I'm going to also do these little sprigs here, just really carefully. And that is the other beauty of our all-purpose mat, is I can go ahead and do my tape runner on it, and it doesn't leave any residue. So I'm just kind of alternating between the two leaves and the little sprigs, just eyeballing it, kind of figuring out where things are going to go. And I'm going to put some 3D foam behind some of them to kind of get some lift. Yeah, Lori, I need to look. I can't remember exactly what it's called. I think it's like Artist something. I got it off Amazon years ago. And I will look and get that link for you when I'm all done. I absolutely meant to do it before, but then I just forgot until just now. So it is pretty awesome. I use it a lot of times when I'm doing delicate things, just because it is so quick and easy to just go ahead and tack that between the two sheets and pick it up. So I'm putting these two little yellow flowers on 3D foam, and add this last little sprig here. And then I'm going to do a higher, so I was using the thin, we have two different thicknesses of 3D foam. So I was using our thin for the two yellow ones, but I'm going to use our thicker one for this flower here, our final flower. Okay. Just kind of go like that to create that cluster. And then we're going to go back over and do our little banner piece. And that one I also put some 3D foam behind so that it was raised, because it is right next to the raised flower. So I'm using a few of these smaller size ones on here. Oops. Just taking the backing off of them. All right. So kind of overlapping just a little bit, but not too much there. And then we want to finish it off with some of the little black circles, black dots. And so I'm doing a cluster of 3 of them. So I'm doing 2 that are going to be over here and 1 that's outside here. And what that's doing is it's creating kind of a triangle effect, and it's really focusing your eye here on this cluster, this floral cluster. So actually I did my banner a little bit lower here on this one than my sample, but that's fine. So now you have another great card with these awesome irresistible papers. So, all right, so that is what I had for you guys in terms of creating those 2 cards. I have a couple more card samples that I thought I would show you. And then, so this one here, same layout design, but I did it in 2 different ways just so you can kind of see in 2 different patterns. Again, kind of like we did with the stencil, this last one, where it's just kind of focused behind. So you still have that pattern showing in the white, but you really have a pop of color with the stencil. And then I just did some clustering over it, but you get such a different look with the layout design. So that's something you should kind of keep in mind whenever you're making cards, is we could have changed it to today, instead of having it be horizontal, to having it be vertical. So I wanted to show you that. And then the final thing I wanted to talk to you about was our new special that we're having right now, which is absolutely stunning. It is called Daisy Daisy. And the reason I want to tell you about it today is because it is in pre-order, and it closes tomorrow, the pre-order does. And so here's a couple of cards that I created with them. It's so pretty. The papers for the Daisy Daisy and the stamp set, but the star, I think, is this beautiful daisy die. So it's got 3 layers and then the center. And for this card here, I did all 3 layers. I'm sorry, my voice is starting to go. It's got the full petaled daisy. It's got the open petal daisy. And then it's got this cool, like, it's this one here. It's kind of the splotchy kind of filler, I think of it, die that just adds a lot of dimension to it. And then I did the center there. And then for this one here, I took the die and I just cut it in half so that I could double layer it. So then it's kind of like just a half of a daisy there. Just fun. But so right now, like I said, the pre-order is right now. It closes tomorrow. I can also put a link in the comments when I'm done. You can get the die by itself, or you can get the whole bundle, which I think is the better way to go, because you get the paper pack, this die to create this, you get the stamp set, this beautiful stamp set, the sticker sheet. It's just all really wonderful. And if you get the bundle, it's at a discount. So Kale, this is the new Daisy Daisy. This is pre-order right now. The pre-order closes tomorrow. I will put a link in the comments when I get off where you can get it. But like I said, they're pre-ordering it because supplies, supply chain everywhere is so hard. And so they're trying to predict interest. And so to guarantee that you can get it, they're doing it by pre-order. So I'll put that link in there. And then I will also put the link in for my card kit that I did today in case you missed out on getting the card kit. There are only 3 left, like I said, because the stencil has sold out. And I think that's it. Oh, I am really interested though, if you have something special that you want to learn about, like a style of card, or, like a mini album, or, a treat holder, something. If that's what you're really looking for, leave it in the comments, because I will start designing my next project for you guys for our next live event. I won't be able to do the one in April, but I'll be doing the one in May. So please leave me a comment and let me know. And thanks so much for joining me. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day learning all of the fun things. Thanks so much.